Hey folks, Arlyeon here, welcoming you to Crit Hit Reviews. On today's episode, we'll be exploring a game provided by Sasha of our Discord community, specifically Mega Crit Studios' Slay the Spire. For those unfamiliar, the game's a rather intriguing mashup between a deck-building card game and a roguelite. But is that particular formula inspired enough to stand the test of time, or is it doomed to fall like Babylon? Find out on this episode of Crit Hit Reviews. Now, narratively speaking, the game doesn't really waste all that much time before it throws you blindly into the fray on a quest to, well, slay the Spire. In fact, it's only upon air quotes clearing a run that you discover just how literal that particular turn of phrase is. That said, it's not bereft of lore, as it chooses to provide it through its various encounters, whether personifying its protagonists and enemies via their decks. Demon form, for instance, is rather telling as far as a card goes for the Ironclad, or providing backstory and world building through the various events that the players encounter. As you progress through the game, you'll even come to learn that the act of dying and starting anew, courtesy of the ever-aloof mystic whale Niao, is a part of the narrative pacing. If you do manage to brave your way towards a character's true ending, however, you do manage to garner yourself reward in the form of a few quiet but poignant images pertaining to the character you used, as well as an outro which manages to raise a few more questions along the way. Mechanically, Slay the Spire is absolutely phenomenal, and that's coming from someone that doesn't tend to really gravitate towards deck building / card games traditionally. As of the time of this review, there's currently 3 distinct characters that you can use to try and wade through the game's regions. What differentiates these characters, beyond their aesthetic, is that each one has a unique starting relic and decks which are completely unique to them. The Ironclad is more or less a warrior, the Silent being a rogue, and the Defect is essentially a robot-y wizard. Now, whilst their initial deck is always the same, clearing battles, engaging in events, and visiting shops allows you to build up that deck, or remove cards to control the odds of you getting the cards you need, effectively allowing you to tailor strategies around the cards and relics you found. Which, yeah, beyond the character's starting relics, you'll be acquiring more, either by fighting the game's daunting elites, which are mini-bosses chosen from a pool specific to the region you're in, events, shops, mid-game chests, and boss relics. Now, what makes this especially interesting is that while some of the relics and events are clearly beneficial, others have a give and take, such as only being useful if you fulfill certain conditions, or possibly carrying a downside that likely makes enemies slightly stronger in exchange for granting you the ability to play more cards in a given turn. Still, the game does an extraordinarily good job of making sure that whatever choice you do make, it's generally one that's well informed, as you're presented with the result of choices you make in an event, as well as displaying what an enemy is going to do on his given turn, making the game by and large all about strategic choices. The roguelike luck aspect is mostly manifested in the manner of just what you encounter, and even then you're able to somewhat determine vis-a-vis choosing the route you travel along the game's paths, even if the specifics might be a bit trickier to map out. Also, I couldn't help but find the game's score system neat, as it wasn't only incorporated as a way of showing off, but it was also used to unlock relics and cards pertaining to specific characters, which meant that even when I was dying all over the place early on, I got to maintain a sense of progress. And that's all just the main mode. The game also has a daily climb mode, which provides you a challenge mode and high scoreboard, which changes every day with a fixed character and modifiers. There's also a custom, read potentially infinite mode, which basically just lets you check any number of modifiers to your heart's content to peruse different ways to play the game and overall mess around. Now, soundtrack-wise, the game's a blast to listen to, from the various region themes and their combat themes to just the more dramatic boss fight themes. Hats off to the heart for making your impending demise as spiffy as possible. Also, the overall sound effects are just very on point, to the extent that I never really found them getting old. Now, I also have nothing literally bad to say about the game's visual presentation, but more than that, I genuinely appreciate a large number of what it had to offer. Whether it was the aesthetic of the areas, the characters, and the enemies, to the simple fact that, like, the game's various cards have their own art as well as unique attack animations for a number of them, really do add to the flavor of the game. Also, the fact that you can unlock beta art for the cards, which are absolutely hilarious in both how they look and the subversion of what the cards mean, was just a great bonus to unlock. Now, I'll just outright admit here in the final section that I think this game is a crit hit, and that if you haven't tried it out by this point, you're missing out. It's been an absolute blast for me to delve into, and I'm immensely looking forward to more content and characters being added to the game. Though, even without that, there's still plenty of reason for me to give it a poke. For one thing, whilst it is a roguelike, it's one of the few that I've found to not make loss feel immensely punishing, because it manages to have an extremely well-balanced play length. Even if I manage to lose at like the penultimate or final boss, it doesn't tend to feel like a tremendous punishment or slap in the face, even if the true final boss is a complete bastard, if only because the game is fantastic at managing its pacing and avoiding being samey. Those randomized options offered at the start also help a bit here. Honestly, just because it offers so many options in its rewards and how to customize yourself helps to make you feel more empowered, despite the randomness inherent in the roguelike formula. Anyways, that sums up my feelings on Slay the Spire. If you enjoyed this review, or just have some thoughts you'd like to share, feel free to comment down below. If you enjoyed this, also hit the like button just so I know those people who this resonated with, and if you want to see more reviews or developer interviews, hit the subscribe button and the little bell icon to get alerts when we actually release something new. Anyways, this has been Arlyeon, and I hope you folks take care. Catch you next time. No,